So good morning to all of you. So welcome once again for our class this school year, second semester school year 2020-2021. So once again, this is your friend, your professor, Brother Joras Alferez. So this morning we'll be discussing or reviewing about the Filipino values or the Filipino value system. Kasi baka nakalimutan na natin. So review natin before as we journey in this subject, values education. So we will be founded or guided once again with these Filipino values. So once again, welcome to this school year, second semester, 2021, 2021. Okay, so we move on. What about the so-called values? So I told you this is a sort of review. What about values? What is values? When I talk about values, this is coming from the Latin word valere, valere, which means strong, vigorous, or worthy. So once again, the etymological meaning of the word value, which means strong or vigorous or worthy. So according to Hukano in his research, the year 2000, he said that the concept which we use as points of reference or criteria for recognizing, expressing, and evaluating social realities in the environment in terms of, take note on this, desirability, which is also related to values, importance, significance, worth, quality, merit, price, and usefulness. So this is according to Hukano in his research year 2000, which is similar terms to the so-called values. Next, another researcher, Edgar Brightman, he said, whatever is actually likes, prized, esteemed, desired, approved, or enjoyed by anyone at any time, for him that is value or values. Enjoyed, esteemed, prized, anytime to anyone, according to Brightman, that's values. Then Andres, in his research on the year 1989, he said that it is the actual experience of enjoying a desired object or activity. Hence, value is an existing realization of desire. Value is an existing realization of desire. So this is a desire. If you want to enjoy or enjoying it in our actual experience, that's according to Andres, that's value. Then there are standards. And this is from Mantayan, the standard of value. We decide on things depending on some valid criteria that would provide credibility to pursue such action. Once again, we decide on things depending on some valid criteria that would provide credibility to pursue such action. And that's one of the standard when we talk about the so-called value. And one also is guided in his or her or commonly accepted norms in realizing particular end. So another, it's function to direct our way of looking at things towards a desirable result. So what we want to desire and we enjoy it in our daily experiences, and that's the so-called values or the standard of value. And we have the so-called value system. This is one of the important elements of the Filipino culture. Take note, one of the important elements of the Filipino culture. What are these elements? First is the basic personality. And I think we understand that one. Next, basic social unit. We are social being. We belong to that social unit. We belong to the family. Next is politics. You know what is politics, economics, the technology. And nowadays, we have also the problem when we talk about ecology. And I think we had the subject that before when we talk about ecology. I think in your values education one. How do we care our environment? Then Filipino values can be translated as, you look at this one, buti. Buti, this is something desired of what is good. Kabutihan, mabuti, from the root word buti, the desired of what is good. Next is pamantayan. Pamantayan, this is the standards now, which enable us to organize our ideas and interpret our experiences within the context of community, shared meaning of things, events, or action. So pamantayan, once again, this is our standards. We belong to this group, we belong to the community, we have the so-called standards, so the pamantayan. Okay? Then another Filipino values can be translated to halaga. Importansya, halaga. The worth, importance, evaluation, or assessment. In the family, ikaw ba ay mahalaga? And I remember Erap, lahat, bawat isa ay mahalaga. So that's he values all of us, all Filipinos. In your family, bawat isa din ay mahalaga. Okay? Then, another Filipino values that can be translated to ganda, beautiful, encompassing everything that is to be pursued. What is beautiful must be realized. Ano kayang kagandahan dito? Gagawin natin ito kasi ito ay maganda. Any experience, anything, basta ang resulta maganda. And that's one of the translation of Filipino values. So once again, buti, pamantayan, halaga, as well as ganda. That's in our context as Filipino when we talk about Filipino values. Next, may 4 daw na test of value according to the research of Robin Williams. I think you're familiar with Robin Williams. First, extensive of the value. In the total activity of the system, what is proportion of the population manifests that value? How many of the people in the community are applying? So once again, in a society, in a community, when I talk about values, is it extensive? Ginagamit ba? Ina-apply ba? That's the first test. Second, the duration of the value. Duration, time frame. So was it persistently important over the period of time? Or is it sustainable when you talk about values? For us Filipinos, there are times we tend to forget ano itong mga values natin. Hindi nasusustain, especially ang paggalang, the value of respect, the way we speak, the way we talk, especially, di ba, when we were still young, tinuturuan tayo po or opo. Kaya nga sabi dito, the first test, is it the duration, the value, nasusustain ba? You ask yourself. Now, kung ikaw ngayon, nandyan pa ba yon? And I think I already shared with you, I am a Cebuano, I have also my way. The way I talk, na may paggalang. Okay? Yun yung palagi nilalagay ko sa isip. But here in Cotabato City, we have the Cotabato Tagalog version. We don't have po or opo. Pero tinuturuan tayo. Mga anak ko, tinuturuan ko. Ano ay? So that masusustain itong tinatawag na value. Kasi this is a test, duration of value. May katapusan ba o hanggang dito lang? And when we talk about value, the worthiness, dapat masusustain yan. Na sana hindi mawala. With your generation, with my generation, sana ipasa natin ito. Because we are Filipinos. Huwag kayong magpadala sa iba. They have also their own context when we talk about value. But well, there are universal values. We know that one. But for us, the specific as Filipinos, We have the test. Okay? Third, the intensity with which the value is sought or maintained, as shown in our efforts, choices, verbal affirmations, and by reactions to threats to the values. Once again, the intensity with which the value is sought or maintained. So, which is related to number one, nasusustain ba, nami-maintain ba? Makikita ba ito? Okay? Verbal affirmation. Kaya nga ngayon may danger. Our leader, I'm talking to the president. Bastos siya. Pag yun yung karaniwang maririnig sa mga anak natin, mga bata natin, that's one of the tests. The way we express. Verbal expression. So, take note on that. The next is the prestige. The prestige of value carriers. Sino yung nagdadala? Who are the implementers of the value? Though they possess the integrity to be such models of the value, you ask yourself, and I'm also asking myself. So the question is, who are the implementers of the value? We are Filipinos. We have to implement that values. Dapat wag nating kalimutan. Sana. Wag tayong magpadala sa ating leader na bastos. Kahit na irrationalize pa yan, bastos siya. Hindi dapat tularan. Hindi dapat tularan. Our values, tinatanong tayo, who are the implementers? They have to be implementers. But sila, they rationalize everything. They are intellectual, pero may mali. Take note. Not take note. Notre Dameans. Take care of your children. We have the test according to Williams. That's the fourth test of our values. Pero sana naman, we are the implementers as parents, as students, teachers. Dapat dala-dala yan para hindi mawawala. How do we implement? Nasa sa atin yon. Do we possess integrity? That's the point there. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I am aware, okay, with these values. Gets natin? Okay, we move on. There are stages and development of the Filipino value formation. What are these stages? First, the preconditional stage, the childhood stage, 0, 5, 6, 7, basta child pa, this is itong years na ito, dapat dito itinuturo ang the so-called values. Take note dapat dito. Ito yung they learn a lot in the childhood stage. From teachers, karamihan sa atin parents, to the ustadjes, to the priests, to the nuns. Pag hindi nakikita ang value sa pamilya, and I think sana makikita sa schools. And I think you can compare that one. I'm not saying na masama ang public school. But, bakit dito kayo nag-aral? Kasi iba. You can compare or you can even differentiate the two. Here comes. So kahit na sa atin, in reality, the graduate of UP, that's a government school. The graduate of Notre Dame, Ateneo, La Salle, they are all intellectuals, but the bottom line, you ask the question, what about the values? Kikita mo yan, makikita mo yan. Okay? So, kaya nga yung iba, dito natin paaralin sa mga Catholic school, religious school, o sa madrasa. Kasi the values, nandyan yun. Very, very important in that preconditional stage, the childhood stage. Okay? Kaya nga kung ano yung palaging naririnig ng mga bata in your family, pagkabastusan, puro kabastusan, take note, ang kalalabasan dyan, malaking problema. Okay? Kaya nga, tayo, titingnan natin, especially nowadays, with the gadgets, the modern technologies, nakikita lahat. Problema dyan, if it will not be guided. Kaya nga, sa television natin, SPG, karahasan, sexual, horror, droga, na hindi angkop sa mga batang manonood. Pero mga bata mo, hayaan mo, hindi mo ini-explain the so-called values in the childhood stage, magka-problema. Ha? They have to be guided, especially on that stage, the preconditional stage. Second, ito in the conditional stage, the youth, kabataan natin. During the conditional stage, adolescents identify with their peers, idols, teachers, due to interpersonal communication. Kaya nga, there are times kayo with your experience as parents, yung may mga asawa na, ako, minsan sinusunod si teacher. Because ito na nakita nila. Sabi ni teacher, kasi ina-idolize nila si teacher. Another thing, social media, sabi ko pag hindi mag-guide yan, ina-idolize mga artista, Hollywood, the Filipino actors and actresses. But the question, look at the values of those people. Okay, especially now, broken family. Okay lang pala. Okay lang mabuntis. Okay lang may live-in. Okay lang premarital sex. In the youth stage, take note. Parental guidance is highly also recommended with this stage. Then now, the next stage is the post-conventional stage, including as tayo na yon. Tayo na yon. Kaya nga, from stage childhood to the youth, ito yung dalawa, what we are today, na values na kukuha natin, doon na. Galing yan doon. Sabi nga, the people internalize the values they have imbibed in the first two stages without fear. So tayo na yan ngayon. Tayo na yan ngayon. What are our values today is coming from that stages. The childhood as well as the youth or the conventional stage. Kaya nga, sabi ko nga, it would be good to review once again this Filipino values. Kumustahin mo sarili mo? Your values in life. Or what are those Filipino values? Nandyan pa ba? Naiwan pa ba? Hindi ka ba nahiya magmamano? Hindi ka ba nahiya or baka naghambog ka na? So that's the problem now. Okay? So those are the stages. Next, there are pamantayan system. This is an alternative approach to Filipino value system. And again, according to Hokano, pamantayan is the appropriate model for understanding the Filipino traditional value system. Pamantayan is our standards, our model, kung paano natin intindihin yung traditional value system natin as Filipino. The model rightly answers the question, why do Filipinos behave the way they do? So why do Filipinos behave the way they do? The answer is anonymous according to the study because they observe the same pamantayan for doing things. What are the standards na tututunan, yun din yung dala-dala. Pag mali yung dala, pag ngayon, maling-mali. Okay? But we have the standards. Kaya nga, the question, why do Filipinos behave this way? Kaya nga, in our politics today, I was invited in the farm, one of the respondent asking about the values, about governance, good governance, as well as moral governance. So yun yung banat ngayon. So doon kami sa moral governance. Ano ay, baka nakalimutan na natin when we talk about morality. Kasi problema, madaming kawatan. Walang itinuturo ang ating relihiyon pero ang daming kawatan. You open your eyes, you look at the realities na sana ang values. In the classroom, when you're still in the elementary, in high school, ang laki doon, honesty is the best policy. But it's sad to note that nowadays, nawawala na yon. How many are graduates of the Catholic schools? How many are graduates of the madrasa? Bakit ang daming kawatan sa atin? In the BARM, sabi nga sa BARM, pamaliitan lang. But nationwide, million, billion ninanakaw. Kahit na pangmaliitan sa atin, but the question on values. Okay? That pamantayan, that model, nawala na. Okay? So, kayo nang magbasa dyan, the nature, the function, the orientation, the preferences, and the judgment. When it comes to extrinsic, intrinsic, as well as the psychic, that's the nature. In the function of extrinsic, cognitive, evaluative, so the evaluation. Then sa orientation, ito yung kamalayan. The conscious knowledge. Nagkaroon ng malay. References ito. Tao to tao, person to person, person to society. That's in the extrinsic. Ano yung nasa labas na makukuha mo na values? Tao to tao, tao in the society. Then sa judgment, tama kaya ito or mali ito? And we can compare that one. So once again, balikan ko. I'm not saying, halimbawa, kung ikaw ay nasa squatter areas, person to person, compared to the villages, medyo rich people, there are advantages and the disadvantages of both areas. But you can judge. Is it right or is it wrong? Nowadays, like this extrinsic, nakikita natin, si Nuestra, yung bang bang. I don't care. Yeah. Diba? Kaya nga, wag kang kakanta, I don't care. Bang bang, patayin ka. Is it right or is it wrong? Take note. That's extrinsic, person to person. That's a reference. Person to society. Okay? The intrinsic part naman, intrinsic, still cognitive in the mind, but this is an expression, expressive, nakikita. So, nagkaroon ng kalooban. This is within. Kaya nga, kalooban. The inner feelings. Then, person as well as the self. So, pansarili yon. Kaya nga, ito na yung part of the reflection natin. Tanungin ito yung sarili natin. Okay. And we know that the judgment, is it good or is it bad? In your morality, in your subject, sa ethics ninyo, do good and avoid evil. Do good and avoid evil. So that's a judgment. But there are times people tend to do bad. Kapit sa patalim. So now, saan na yung person and self? The references. So that's within. But I'm not generalizing. Ang kasalanan ng isang tao, hindi naman kasalanan ng lahat. But the point here, within yourself, tanungin mo. You know what is good, you know what is bad. Then the psychic. Psychic, the soul, the extrasensory, is more on affective, the heart, and more on spiritual. Papasok itong pananampalataya or the faith when we talk about orientation. Pasok na yung ating pananampalataya. Then sa references naman ito, person as well as the supernatural. So pagpapasok pang ang pananampalataya, this is now my relationship to my Creator, I and my God. I and my God. Okay? And that would be good. That would be a good reflection na dapat gawin. Well, pag-usapan natin yan. Your relationship, I and my God. So the judgment now, it's more on the sacred or the profane as well as strong or weak. And that's why this is more on the supernatural. My relationship to my Creator. Then look at the diagram sa baba. We have the diwa, the asal, and the halaga. That's still related to the values. Diwa is in the center. Then lumalabas siya with that circle, nandoon yung asal. Then lumalaki from the outside naman yung halaga. So what about this? The diwa, the asal, and halaga. When you talk about halaga, represents the surface level. Kaya nasa labas yun. Surface level of the pamantayan of the standard and the functions as a cognitive evaluate core of the system. So, yung sa bilog, nasa surface, pinakamataas siya. So, yung halaga. Then the asal, yun yung sumunod. Asal, primarily a behavioral concept which refers to the intrinsic quality and meaning of action. Intrinsic quality that's within. Okay, the asal, behavioral concept. Okay, asal, behavioral concept. More on your behavior. Then the diwa, sabi natin kanina, is more on spiritual, core of our traditional values, and the essence of our collective sentiments of the psychic as a people. So by nature, I think we are religious. We are spiritual being. So therefore, we have this so-called diwa. So remember the three, yung the diagram. In the center, we have the diwa. Then lumalabas sa asal in the surface is halaga. But that's still related to the so-called Filipino values. Familiar with this, the Filipino closeness and security. Filipino closeness and security. The natural dependence and mutual sharing among family members, financially and emotionally. Natural dependence. Nagtulong-tulungan as a family. It can be financial, emotional. So basta in a family, the closeness. And we have that one as Filipino. If you're in the family, you are secure because you're very close. Yung the support system. Nagkasala ka man, pamilya nandyan pa rin, nagmamahal sa'yo. Then Filipinos have extended family. Family structure where married sons and daughters remain under the roof of their parents for protection. I think we have a discussion that one in your previous values education. When they talk about family, marriage, and responsible parenthood. You have the extended family. Ayaw ng mga magulang na malayo ka, dapat dito lang. That's part of the Filipino closeness or family closeness and security. Next, we have the close-knit phenomenon which is related to our closeness. Is binding elements of the threads of society unrewoven by giving attention of what the individual experienced in his or her capacity as a member of community. So yun, nandyan ka. Malapit talaga. Then family is seen as a defense against the hostile world and a unit where one can turn to in case of he or she has a serious problem, according to the study of Rolda as well as Panopio in the year 2000. So once again, one can turn if there are problems, a serious problem, itong tinatawag nating family, this a defense, depensa mo, tumutulong sa'yo against the hostile world. But ngayon ang gulo na ng mundo. Sirang-sira na ang mundo. This close family ties is also in danger din. Yung close-knit phenomenon naging in danger na rin. And why? Ang mga tao ngayon, the Filipinos, liberated na masyado. Kaya nga, yun yung bantayan natin. Kaya yun yung bantayan natin. Social acceptance. From the word itself, alam natin yan. If you want to be accepted, you have to be with the group, sakay-sakay ka rin sa kanila. Kaya nga, refers to the way of life of Filipinos to be recognized or acknowledged by their fellow men and social groups. Kaya nga, bakit yung iba nagdo-join ng fraternity, sorority? Because they feel that they belong to that group. Buti na lang sa inyo, I don't know dito, pero I think some of you, when you were still in high school, you are a member of sorority, fraternity, as well as mga gang. And I don't know how many of you join the civic as well as religious group. So that you also feel that you're accepted, you belong to that group. Another is the pakikisama. Pakikisama o pakikisama? Take note. Pakikisama is yielding to the will of the majority and to the leader, which could result to both to positive and negative behavior. It refers to one's effort to get along with everybody. Bagong presidente, makisama kasi tayo dito. Kasi atin ito, taga Mindanao ito. First time, taga Mindanao ito. Kaya nga, we have plenty of DDS. Minsan, hindi na nag-iisip, ina-idolo na. Kahit na mali, tinatawanan. Pakikisama o pakikisama. If you are not with us, you are against us. So yun, mag-isip din tayo ganyan. Mag-isip din tayo. Okay? Surely, may mga DDS din dito. Pero mag-isip ka. Pakikisama or pakikisama? Binabastos na, tawanan lang. Okay? Binubuli ka, tawanan lang. Pakikisama pa rin. Take note. Negative as well as positive behavior. Okay? Negative as well as positive behavior. Kaya nga, pakikisama or pakikisama. Sama tayo ngayon. Mag-absent tayo, hindi tayo makinig sa klase natin. Mag-escape tayo. Happy-happy tayo. Pakikisama or pakikisama. Okay? According to Father Franklins, define pakikisama as the ability to get along with each other's such way as to avoid signs of conflict. Camaraderie among Filipino makes them flexible and easy to be with. And okay lang. Okay? To be flexible, to avoid conflict. So therefore, nakisama ka. Para wala problema, sunod na lang tayo. But is blind obedience good? Nakisama ka lang kahit na mali? So, yan yung tandaan mo. Then, pakikisama also occurs when teenagers join their peer groups and drinking spree for the fear of incurring the group disapproval. Sama tayo kasi happy-happy tayo ngayon. Mag-absent tayo. Kinti ka no, pakikisama. Okay? Sunod na lang ako kasi baka i-reject ako sa grupo. So, yun yung bantayan. Then we have the euphemism. I think you're familiar with euphemism. Using nice words, not directly, kasi to avoid conflict, kasi ayaw natin ng gulo. Kaya nga, stating an unpleasant truth, opinion, or request as unpleasantly as possible in order not to offend others, direct, harsh, or brutal words must be avoided. Pero may ibang tao, prangka-prangka ito, prangkahan ito. Sabi ni President, prangkahan ito, wala na itong ano. Kayong mga pare, mga demonyo kayo, kayong mga obispo, may mga anak kayo, kayo, lahat-lahat, puro mali. Okay, minolestia ako. Kita ninyo? Diretsahan, may mga taong ganon. Pero sabi ko nga, kung may isa mang nagkamali doon, you cannot generalize. Kung ito yung inidulo mong Pangulo, kaya may nagkamali sa isang pari, generalize, puro pala demonyo tong pari, Apollo. Kita ninyo? Sana mag-isip. Use your critical thinking. Ang mali ng isa, hindi mali ng lahat. Kung puro pala demonyo itong mga kaparian, mga kamadrian, di ba? Yung bagong issue natin ngayon. Si Tagle, ang mga obispo. Tinatago yung mga NPA, sila yung nagsusuporta sa NPA, mga madre. That's why ganito. Ulitin ko, ang mali ng isa, hindi mali ng lahat. Ulitin ko euphemism, nasa atin yan, na dapat wag ganon. Pero sabi ko, may mga tao na prangkahan. Kaya minsan masakit. When I was assigned in Negros Occidental, when I was still a missionary, malapit na sana ako ma-recruit ng mga NPA. Ano ay? Because you sympathize with those people. Pobre masyado. I was assigned the Hacienda. Then during that time, baka patay na rin ako kung nagpadala ako. But I know what is good, what is bad. Okay? Kaya nga itong sinasabi, mga pare, mga obispo, Kayo yung nagtago sa mga NPA. I'm not denying on that na there are priests, there are nuns. But ang gawa ng isa, hindi gawa ng lahat. Okay? Yun yung dapat tingnan. One thing there, euphemism, it can be good. Wala namang problema. Kasi ayaw mo masaktan, that's why instead of brutal words, pero on the opposite, kaya nga brutal masyado magsalita ang presidente. Kanina sa balita, sabi naman niya, ayaw ko si Sarah magpresidente kasi babae, ibang iniisip ng babae, very emotional siya, hindi makaya. Kita ninyo? Bias to the gender. Very bias. Pero ina-idolize ninyo, well, makisama ka rin. Kasi brutal, gusto mong brutal. Okay? That's the point there. So we move on. We have the so-called the middleman. Take note on this kasi halos karamihan ganito. The middleman is used when a person needs his or her promotion or appointment papers signed when following up the documents or when the need of the certification. Asama tayo kasi kilala mo yon, close friend kayo, pariente mo yun, ate mo yun, uncle mo yun. So magdala-dala ka. Minsan, nangyari dito when I was teaching the university, may isang pala absent. Pagbalik, may dala na yan, may spokesperson. Malapit ka ni sir. Kaya nga minsan, naiinis din ako. Sino bang may problema? Ikaw or siya? Sino pa? Ikaw o siya? Kasi sir, nahihiya man siya sir. Yun yung problema. Dumiretso ka sa akin, huwag kang mahiya. I am your teacher. Bakit magdala pa ka middleman? Then I ask, kasi halos lahat, kasi maybe part of the culture, magdala talaga somebody kung may problema, may nagkasala. Why not approach the person? Sir, may problema. So yan. Take note of this middleman. It can be good, it can be bad. There are times itong middleman, sila man tuloy ang maybe the spokesperson. Kaya nga minsan, nakakainis din. Instead yung nagkasala, siya sana yung magsalita, here comes the middleman, may problema. Then, pakikiramdam. A value affecting one's team's spirit. So, a value affecting team's spirit. Nakikiramdam ka. Okay, this is also a value affecting ay, kawawa, natalo man ang team ko. Ang kawawa naman. So, nakikiramdam ka. Galingan ko para mabuhos yung moral ng team ko. So, nakikiramdam ka. And if you are there, so therefore, galingan mo. Then we have the so-called personalism. Emphasizes on the importance of the person with whom one has immediate face-to-face contact over the abstract rule of law or common good. Itong personalism, walang kaibigan, walang barkada, walang kumare, walang kumpare system. Sabi ni Pino yon, mga classmate, ginuha niya. Walang barkada daw. Ngayon naman, sabi ni Duterte, walang ganito, walang kuwan. Pero nung kinukuha niya, mga classmate din niya. So, kinasigisira ni Pinoy. So, matutal siya din. Mga sundalo kasi madali lang madala. Kunin lahat. Mga ano. Kita ninyo? Like ngayon, sa ating SARS, si Galvez, General. Dapat doktor na assign dyan. Malay ba dyan siya sa... In fairness naman sa kanya, may nagawa man siguro. Pero the expert, kunin yung expert. Kasi, ito na yun, personalism. May contact kasi ako dito when I was still the mayor. Kilala ko itong taong ito. He was assigned in Davao. Mga tipong ganun. Classmate kami ni yung Chief Justice dati. Na binalik naman ngayon. Siya ngayon ang, kaya nga daming ganun naman. Classmate ko yan. Bright yan sa akin. Personalism, importance of person with whom one has immediate face-to-face contact over the abstract of rule or common good. So, kita ninyo? Kasi, kampi kami. Kung may kalaban, pag-isahan ka namin, goodbye ka. politics ka, narco-politician ka, mag-ingat ka. Mayor natin dito sa Pink municipality, sino yun? Pinatay. Mayor namin, bago lang pinatay. Nasa listahan yun. Mayor namin sa Libungan, si Mayor Amping. Because of this, emphasize to person with whom one has immediate contact over the abstract rule of law. So may contact man, so ito yung kunin ko. Okay, person-to-person contact. Then personalism is manifested in the practices such as, alam naman natin ito, pakiusap, lagay o regalo. Ang dami dyan. Mga agencies, walang korupsyon sa aking pamamalakad sa gobyerno. Anong walang korupsyon? Anong nangyari ngayon sa SSS? PhilHealth. General man yun. Di ba? Tumahimik ng issue. Billions ang kinukurap. Tumahimik issue. BIR. Kita ninyo? Walang korupsyon. Pero mga korap ang mga tao niya. Tahimik lang tayo. Saan ang values? May lagay, yes, ang dami. BIR, sa custom, especially sa custom. Yung ating mga agencies sa government, LTO. Madali ang lisensya maglagay ka. Ngayon, hindi masyado harap-harapan, pero nandyan pa rin, patago. And I know. Okay, and I know. Kasi pag walang lagay, matagal masyado. So may problema. Okay? Palakasan system. The use of power and influences. May palakasan system. Sa bar, may palakasan system kaya, alam niyo yan, you can judge. Kasi naririnig ko ngayon, linalagay sa pwesto, puro paryente. May mga doktor yung iba, may mga master yung iba, pero nilalagay sa DepEd. Bagong matagal na ako. Why? Bakit alam ko? Kasi mga estudyante ko sa DepEd, dito sa masteral doctoral, sir, matagal na ako, sir. Teacher 1 pa rin ako, may doktor na ako. May bagong pasok, sir. Bagong graduate, teacher 3 na. Kita mo? Palakasan. Uncle ko kasi itong leader. May problema. Saan ang values natin? That's why, sabi ko, i-review natin ito na in case nasa puder na kayo, nasa posisyon kayo, sana magiging aware kayo. Nepotism. Alam natin yan. Paryente ko yan, kapatid ko yan, dapat ipasok yan. Of course, favoritism. Sa wala pabor-pabor, ang nanalo, ang aking kapatid. Ang aking kaibigan. Take note. That's the manifestation of the so-called personalism. Person-to-person, face-to-face contact with that person. Next is friendship and kinships. Play important roles in the reciprocal relationship between parties. Alam naman natin yan. Paryente, kaibigan. Nepotism, sinabi ko na din yan, is the employment of relatives to share an individual's good fortune. Kaya sabi ko, paryente ko yan, kapatid ko yan, dapat ipasok ko yan. Yung nangyayari ngayon, Kayo, ang tagal na siguro ninyo, sa farm nagtrabaho, may bagong pasok, mataas pang rangko sa inyo. Kayo ang tagal, with the experiences, alam niyo yan. Okay? Non-rationalism. What about this non-rationalism? Refers to the tendency to perceive thoughts, objects, events, and persons as sacred. Okay, once again, refers to the tendency to perceive the thoughts, objects, events, persons as sacred. May mga ganun ba? Non-rationalism. Ano ba? Object. When you pass by going to Tabiran, may malaking bato dyan. Tapon ka ng barya because for Those, may history daw na sacred place yan. Dapat magrespeto ka every time dadaan ka. Pag hindi, madisgrasya because that's something sacred na lugar na yan. Okay? Magdaan ka, dapat, kita natin, tendency to perceive thoughts, objects, the events, especially the events din, or the person, as sacred. Next is animism. Alam naman natin yan in your history. The belief that a spirit pervades in activities. Sabi nga, before the coming of Christianity and Islam in the Philippines, Filipinos are animist. May Panginoon itong buwan, may Panginoon itong kahoy, may Panginoon itong bato. That's animism. Okay? A belief that a spirit pervades in an activities. Itong kahoy na ito, may ano ito. Okay? Then fatalism, kapalaran, expresses the bahala na attitude, which means living matters as they are because natural will take its course. Bahala na. Bahala na si Batman. Alam niyo yan. It is believing that life depends on, tingnan nyo mga Pinoy, swerte or buenas or good luck. Kaya marami ditong tumataya sa Pilipinas because of the swerte, baka maswerte. May problema din yan. Dahil sa tadhana, ito yung kapalaran mo. Then malas ka or the bad lucks. Hindi ka swerte, ang opposite, malas. Kaya yung iba, yung palaging mga sugarol, tumataya. Tuwang-tuwa pag manalo yan. Pag matalo, malaking problema. Wala bigas, may pangsugal, pag-uwi sa bahay. Pero pag swerte na, grabe, tuwang-tuwa yan. Okay? Then the bahala na, once again, it is an expression which expresses that fatalistic outlook of the Filipino. It happens when one simply resigns to the consequences of life's difficulties. Sabi ko kanina, bahala na. Galing ito kasi sa yung bathala na, Diyos na ang bahala. But there is something wrong with this. In Cebuano, we have the kasabihan, lihok tao, kay tabangan ko ikaw. God said na you have to do something. Action. Because God will help you. Okay? Hindi yung bahala na, hindi na Diyos ang bahala. Sabi ko nga, kung Diyos lang ko, sinampal kita ba? Upo ka lang dyan, bahala na si Batman. Ano ka, siniswerte ka? Okay? Next. Ito yung sabi ko. The expressions which reflects bahala na are, tingnan nyo, iginuguhit ng tadhana. Damala, sinabi na natin kanina, daswerte. Dagulong ng palad, ang buhay ay gulong ng palad. There are ups and downs. It's like the wheel. Yung gulong daw ng palad. Ganyan talaga yan. Minsan ang buhay nasa taas, nasa baba. Bakit hindi ka masustain mo nasa taas? O bakit dito ka rin sa baba? O baka balanse lang. May sinasabi tayo kasing gulong ng palad. And we have also the term chamba. Undeserved success brought about by luck. Chamba lang yan. Kung halimbawa, denslister ka, nakachamba ako. Ano pala, bahala na si Batman, di ka nag-aral. Chamba lang yun. That's the problem. Dapat pinagsikapan ko, so therefore, denslister ako. Bakit binigyan ako ni Bro Alferez ng 95 na tsambahan? Hindi yan tsamba. Pinaghirapan mo yun. Okay? Bakit 78 lang sa akin? Kagaya yung mga grade dati. Wala ka man sinabing reflection paper. Kaya nga in the previous, yung iba late mag-submit. Okay? Pero sabi ko nga, sige, habol lang. Pero don't expect. Pag naghabol ka, may points ka. Pero, kaya walang tsamba. Dapat. Paghirapan mo. Okay? Then every positive way, the bahala na is what makes the people move, take risks, and plan for the future. That's also according to the study of Rolda as well as Panopio. Sabi nga, keep calm, and bahala na si Batman. Problema mo yan kung bahala na si Batman. Okay? But you have to do something. Hindi bahala na si Batman. Okay? Then, familiar also with this bayanihan theme. Nowadays, the bayanihan is still existing. Nasusustain yan. You look at the drawing. When it comes to calamities, nandoon yung bayanihan. It denotes camaraderie among the people in the community and connotes helping one another in time of need. Nandyan pa rin yung bayanihan spirit. I think wala namang dyan, walang kukontra dyan. What about this utang na loob or the infinite responsibility? Portrays our true identity based on our concern and response to others. Okay lang utang na loob. But this utang na loob, it becomes a negative thing if there is a condition. If there is condition. Kung hindi ka, kaya nga, tumulong ka, kung naghihintay ka ng kapalit, may problema. Like your parents, our parents. Abutin lang yung sa akin, pobre man kami, ako man nagsikap, yung buhay pa yung mama ko, punta yan sa bahay. Ngisi-ngisi lang yan. Pero alam ko, wala niyang makain, wala niyang bigas. Alam ko yon. Pero hindi, I was not obligated to give. Sabi ko, ma, wala man tayo pera, ito lang ha, bigas lang ibigay ko. Ma, ganito lang. Because we know, we have the utang na loob. Nanay natin yon. Or paryente natin yon. Pero pag binigyan ka ng kondisyon, nagiging negative. Mag-aral kayo na kasi pagtanda namin, kayo nang bahala sa amin, kayo nang magpaaral sa mga kapatid mo. Analoko na. It's not the responsibility of the siblings na paaralin. Kung pinapaaral man, well and good, walang question dyan. Tandaan, walang question dyan. Tumulong ka, basta walang kondisyon, that's one good thing. Pero pag may kondisyon, masisira yung utang na loob. Take note on that. Take note on that. As Filipinos. That's why sabi ko, review natin tong values na ito. Baka kayo, yung mga anak nyo, aral ka mabuti na ka. Ako, pinapaaral ko yung mga anak ko. Tapos, it's my obligation, it's my responsibility. When they graduate, okay na yan. But I don't expect any return. And why? It's my obligation. Pero, pag may ibalik, how happy life is. Kasi na-inculcate din yung utang na loob. Pero walang kondisyon dapat. Kaya yung iba, very happy ako sa mga pamilya, naging professional ng mga anak nila. At the end of the day, ma, ito, pambili, sweldo ko, ma, bayad kuryente, ma. Then one good thing. Ang nanay, mga parents, walang kondisyon. But that utang na loob, kusa lang lumalabas sa anak. Okay, walang kondisyon. Kagaya dito sa drawing, inaalagaan kasi balik-balik lang pero walang kondisyon. Then we have also the pagtanaw. Pagtanaw is an ending gratitude, but this is not enough because the responsibility to others does not end since pagpapakatao has no limits. Same with pakikipagkapwa-tao. Okay, sabi nga, madaling maging tao, ngunit mahirap magpakatao. But this magpakatao, when you relate to that utang na loob, nandyan na yun. Given na yan sa atin. Especially to our families. Okay? Same is true with this pakikipagkapwa-tao. Pakikipagkapwa-tao, this is our social responsibility. I think we had discussed that one in the previous subject na sa values education din. Itong our social responsibility. Take note on that. I, as human being, kahit na hindi ko kakilala, hindi ko paryente yan, I have my social responsibility to help especially those who are in need. Those who are in need. Okay? Hospitality. Very familiar. a welcoming attitude, bukas loob na pagtanggap. Filipinos open their hearts to complete strangers and offer them the best in their homes. Pag may dumating, paryente man, hindi man paryente, very welcoming tayong mga Pinoy. And that's one good thing. Sana hindi din yan mawala. Linalabas yung mga nakatago sa baol na mga kagamitan, nakatago doon sa mga kagamitan na amoy ok-ok na. Pero at least, that's being hospitable. That's one thing na wala yan sa iba. Only the Filipinos. Only in the Philippines. Sana hindi yan mawala yung the welcoming attitude. Kahit a stranger pa man yun. Okay? Then, there are two hospitable attitude. Halimbawa pa may magsabi, tao po, automatic yan, tuloy. Is there anybody home? Then welcome agad. Invites a down-to-earth encounter between the stranger and the host. So, ang ganda, di ba? Ang ganda. Then this is a process of welcoming one's sense of being. I am a person who knocks and wishes to be treated as a person. Tao po ako. The host or the hostess who welcomes is also a person. Tao rin ako. Kaya nga, that's being hospitable. Welcome. Welcome. Okay? Second, pwede bang makisukob? Oo ba? Then, may I take cover? And of course, it denotes sharing of something. Okay? Pwede, of course, may I, a courteous word in packaging of pleading and request. Pwede naman lang problema, dito ka, sumilong ka. Then, oo is a height of the encounter that shows us acceptance of a person is no matter what he or she looks like, everybody is welcome. Kasi nag-oo ka. Okay? Pwede bang makisukob? Oo ba or hindi? Maybe interpreted in a Filipino as ideal as pakikisama. Pwede rin, pakikisama. Pero medyo mas malalim ito. Because you are dealing with a stranger. You welcome the stranger. Okay? Next. Disvalued perception explained by there are also disvalued perception. Take note on this. Some critics portrays Filipino values as possessing no value at all. They are negative. O, may iba sasabi. That's according to the research. Hindi yan value. Then they say value is damaged in our culture. Then we are made to believe that what is imported must be better than its local counterpart. This is more on colonial mentality. Kaya nga, according to the studies, mga disvalued perception. Then the Filipino value system, so proceed. This is a cultural challenge. So we know what is culture. A simple render by people's lives, meaningful. A set of beliefs, a set of norms, set of standards. Shared beliefs, that's a value. Philosophy in life, so that's part. So we move on. Then Filipinos are proud of being puspusang loob. I think we agree on that. Then maparaan or resourceful. Mapanuklas, alam natin yan as Filipinos. We're very proud of that. Resourceful. Okay? Mapanuklas. Then Filipinos know their competence. Kaya nga, kilala ang ating kakayahan. Kaya nga, bakit mahal tayo sa ibang mga bansa? Kasi alam natin kakayahan natin. Iba tayo. Naiiba talaga tayo. Okay, we are very, very proud of that. Kaya nga yung awit sa Pinoy Big Brother, lahat tayo, Pinoy ako, Pinoy tayo, ipakita sa mundo, huwag kang magtatago. May dugtong yan? Taas no, ipakita mo na Pinoy ka. We are very proud of that. Okay? Our communication, kaya nga sabi nga, Filipinos are great imitators. That's something positive. And it can be also negative. Pero tayo talagang ang galing. Ang galing ng Pinoy. Kahit saan tayong sulok ng mundo, dali-dali nating maka-adapt, dali-dali nating kaya nga makikihalubilo, makikisama. Then we have also the kayang-kaya mo yan. That's something positive. It is the encouraging phrase of the Filipinos to do their best through tiyaga. Kaya mo yan. Huwag ka magsabi mo, kaya mo yan. Tiyaga lang kailangan dyan. Okay? Pero pag walang tiyaga, wala ka ding ilalaga. Kaya nga kayo, magka-problema kayo sa thesis ninyo. Kaya mo yan, mga advising. Kung kaya yan, nadali lang yan. Mag-research ka. Pero yung iba, ang advisor pag gawain ni, pwede yun. Nag-guide lang kami mga advisor. Pero at the end of the day, ang kagandahan, maganda ng resulta kasi pinagtsagaan mo yun. Kasi kaya mo. Kaya mo. Pero yung iba, hindi ko man kaya, ang hirap. Pinamadali kami ni sir, ganito, ganyan. Mag-defend na daw kami. Papasok yung bahala na. Sabi ko nga yung mga advisor na late, upuan man ninyo yan, mag-research kayo. Mga related studies, ang dali-dali lang yan. Then after that, pagbalik, di come up naman, maganda naman. Kasi na may tiyaga. Pag may tiyaga, may nilaga. Kasi kaya mo. Very encouraging phrase yan as Filipino. Okay? Hindi yun, hindi ko kaya, hindi ko talaga, very negative ka na, hindi dapat ganon. Kasi wala yan sa atin. Kaya mo yan. Okay? That's a positive phrase. Pag may tiyaga, may nilaga. Then we have also, we are in bold with the lakas ng loob, self-confidence. Meron tayo. Laban Pinoy sa basketball. Then, in their desire for social acceptance, ito naman, Filipinos are, in order to be accepted, ito yung tingnan ninyo ha, it is manifested, ito, marunong tayo makibagay. Tandaan niyo yan. Ang Filipino ay marunong makibagay. Marunong makiisa. Marunong makilahok. Marunong makikipagpalagayang loob. Kiramdam mo na una yan. Then after that, pasok agad yan. Then marunong makisalamuha. Marunong makisangkot. Marunong makitungo. And marunong makisama. And this is something good. So that, gawin mo to so that you'll be accepted in the community. Pag wala ka niyan, sabihan ka man, ano ka ba, killjoy ka masyado. Okay, killjoy ka KJ ka. Okay? Pero may mga Pinoy na din na ganyan. Pero hindi na natin i-judge. Baka winiway pa niya. Marunong ka may kisama, pero punta pala kayo doon sa kasama na, may problema yun. At least nag-isip siya. Okay? Then Filipino is likened to a bamboo which symbolizes flexibility, endurance, harmony with nature. Ayan. Marunong nga. Marunong makisama, marunong makihalubilo. Very flexible tayo. Then the bahala na attitude should not be judged as a fatalistic resignation or withdrawal from the engagement of the crisis, but because of their kababaang loob. That's one good thing. Kahit na bahala na, pero maybe because of that humility. But remember, we have the so-called false humility. Magka-problema din yon. Kababaang loob, pero counterpart doon, nagpahambog ka pala. Yun yung tingnan. Then it is also manifested by the upalad habit, and the relationship with God is the source of their malinis at tapat na panunungkulan. Ito yung maganda. This bahala na. Also, one good thing na sinasabi niyan, kung ikaw leader, dapat, because of your relationship to God, malinis at tapat ka sa iyong panunungkulan. Then, we have the so-called Filipino values. We have the strength and weaknesses of the Filipino characters. So, review lang natin ito. Alam naman din natin ito. But, once again, sabi ko nga, in this semester, i-review natin. Kasi mukhang nakalimutan. So, what about this one? The strength of Filipino characters. Sabi nga dyan sa cartoon, diba? What are there in the Pinoy character that makes us strong. That makes us strong as a people. Sabi pa dyan sa isang kalabaw, atik na akaha. Meron kaya tayong strength in our Filipino character. Sige, fast track natin. Filipinos open to others and feel one with others, regard others with dignity and respect, deal with them as fellow human beings. So mayroon tayong kapwa-tao or to the fellow men. Alam natin din yan. And that's why they have the so-called pakikipagkapwa-tao. I think we have discussed that one in the previous topic at saka kanina. In the basic sense of justice and fairness, concern for others, ability to empathize with others. That's pakikipagkapwa-tao. Ay, kawawa naman sila. O, tulungan natin. Empathy is putting your shoes with the shoes of others. Yan. Helpfulness and generosity in times of need. Nakikiramay ka. That's part of pakikipagkapwa, the bayanihan or the mutual assistance, as well as our hospitality as Filipinos. Yan, pakikipagkapwa. Next, alam na natin ito kanina, the family orientation, the close family ties, the family, yung net sinasabi natin, the closeness. Filipinos possess a genuine deep love of the family. So, alam natin yan, yung tabi ng extended family. Yan. Honor and respect. The sense of family results a feeling of belongingness and rootedness in the basic sense of security. Next, strength and character, joy and humor. Tawanan mo ang iyong problema kahit nagka-problema ka. Sabi nga dito, ang lumalakad ng mabagal kung matinik ay mababaw. Ang bumababa ng maarte kung mahulog ay malalim. Tawanan lang. Sense of humor and joy. With all the calamities, marunong tayo ngumiti. Tingnan niya yan. Have a cheerful and fun-loving approach to life and its ups and downs. Nagkalit-salit man ang buhay, ang Pinoy, marunong tayong tumawa. Nandoon pa rin yung joke, nandoon pa yung humor, the sense of humor. Okay? A pleasant disposition with a sense of humor and the propensity for happiness that contribute not only to the Filipino charm but also to the indomitability of the Filipino spirit. So, yun yung wala sa iba. Okay? Kahit na nasalanta na, kahit na binaha na, and everything, na pumutok na ang bulkan, the smile, the joy, the humor still there. Maggrupo-grupo yung Pinoy, tawa lang. Nasunugan, tawa lang din yan. Of course, unang sakit, but later, ang bilis maka-adapt ng Pinoy. Yan, laughing at ourselves. You look at the drawing. Yan. Nung natalo si Pinoy, si Pacquiao sa boxing, tingnan mo yung drawing, kinarga. Yan. Ayan. With all the calamities, tawa lang din. The result was certain emotional balance, optimism, and healthy disrespect for foreign office and the capacity to, sige. Next, flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. Alam na din natin yan. It's like a bamboo, sabi natin kanina. Marunong halubilo, marunong makiramdam, marunong makisakay, marunong makibagay. That's being flexible. Adaptability, kahit saang sulok ka, ilagay, ang bilis mong maka-adapt. That's it for everything. Pananalita mo, action mo. Then creativity, very creative tayo. Okay? Compared to the others. Yan, fast track natin. Yan, the result of productivity, innovation, entrepreneurship, equanimity. Tingnan nyo, habal-habal. Kita? Very creative ang Pinoy. Only in the Philippines yan. Binaha yan. Very creative. Next. Only in the Philippines. Tingnan mo yan. Binaha pa. Naglaro pa. Nag-basketball pa. Look at the jeepney, the tricycle. Very creative. May nakasulat din dyan, no? Painless and satisfaction. Please call. Very creative. Next, hard work and industry. Alam na din natin ito. Pwede natin fast track. Hard worker talaga tayo. Industrious tayo. Mga Pinoy, that's our strength. We have the capacity for hard work given proper condition. To raise one's standard of living, to possess the essentials of a decent life for one's family. Yan. Trabaho talaga tayo. Kahit na mahirap, para makasurvive, nandyan pa rin trabaho. Okay? Next. We are willing to take the risk with jobs abroad and while there are work at 2 or 3 jobs. Yan, karamihan pumunta sa abroad. Para mabuhay lang. Trabaho dito, trabaho doon. Kasi because of that hard work. That's why Filipinos doon, mahal na mahal ng mga dayuhan. Kasi ang galing din magtrabaho. Then the result, productivity and entrepreneurship for some and survival, despite the poverty, talagang kinakaya nila. Next is faith and religiosity. Alam din natin yan. By natures, Filipinos are religious. Filipinos have deep relationship in His Creator, His faith in God. Okay? Before, sabi nga natin, our religion is a foreign religion. My religion, a new religion, Christianity as well as Islam are foreign religion. Before the coming of the Islamic as well as Christian missionaries, Filipinos were religious. Okay? Religious na ang mga Pinoy by nature. And we call that one indigenous spirituality. They are religious. Nung dumating tayo, bagong perception, bagong teaching, well, yung iba na ituwid talaga. Okay? But remember, Filipinos is our strength. We are religious by nature. Kaya yung dumating yung mga missionaries, ito yung resulta. Christianity and Islam. Our innate religiosity enables us to comprehend and genuinely accept reality with the context of God's will and plan. Religious expression is very tangible. Expressed every day. We relate to God like our human being. Pero alam niyo ha, mga kapatid, mga estudyante, iba-ibang pananampalataya natin. Since we are religious, faith and religiosity, but ang danger dito, sinisira kasi ninyo. Huwag na kayong manira. Okay? If your religion tells you that's a true religion, go for it. Because my religion is also a true religion for me. Okay? Do not condemn other religion. Because by nature as Filipinos, we are religious. We have faith in that supreme being. Tandaan ninyo yan. Kaya ngayon, nagkaletse-letse. Grabing discrimination. Pero sabi ko, ang masama, discriminate our religion as Christianity. So, kayo ha, dapat, Notre Dame, it should not be like that. Okay? Tayo yung manguna, tayo yung mangulo when we talk about faith and religiosity. That's our strength, of course. Pero pag manira ka na, that's your weakness. Take note on that. Okay? This pampalakas ng loob allows us to act despite of our uncertainty because we believe that there is God. Iba-iba man yung ating rituals, iba-iba man yung ating practices, but no way. Wala kang karapatan na manira sa iba. Go on. Because our intention is to be with God in paradise. So lang man. Hindi yung manira ka sa kapwa mo. Okay, who are you to judge? Who are you to tell me that I am wrong, that my religion is bad, that my religion is not a true religion? Okay? Next strand, yan, sabi natin, the faith and religiosity, like that one. Next, ability to survive, that's also our strength. Alam natin yan. Kahit na mahirap ka, hanap ka ng paraan, kahit na may problema, with all the calamities, man-made as well as natural calamities, makakasurvive pa rin tayo. Makakaraos pa rin tayo. Okay? Filipinos an ability to survive, of course. Filipinos make do with what is available in the environment. Nasalanta na kung ano yung mapakinabangan, kinukuha. Because that's a strength, a character. Filipino character. Basic optimism, flexibility, adaptability, and hard work, and a deep faith in God. Yan. It is manifested by millions of Filipinos who bravely live through the harshness of economic, social circumstances. What we might be able to do under the better circumstances? So that's a question now. So we move on. From that strength, we have also our weaknesses as Filipino character. Ito yung weaknesses natin. Sabi nga, what about weaknesses? We know our strength, but we have also the weakness. Sabi once again yang sa cartoons dyan, daghan pudoy, pamalandungi dong, na mayroon din tayong kahinaan as Filipino. Marami man tayong kalakasan, or the strength, we have also these weaknesses. And what are those weaknesses? Extreme personalism. We know what is personalism? Person to person, or face-to-face contact. Ito naman extreme, sobra-sobra na rin. So that's very negative. That's our weakness. Filipinos view the world in terms of personal relationship. Alam natin yon. Pero pag sobra na, extreme na rin, ay may laking problema yon. Pag sobra-sobra. We tend to give personal interpretation of action, take things in personality. Tingnan nyo ito. Yan. Yan. Because of this personalistic worldview, Filipinos have difficulty in dealing with all forms of personal stimuli. So, yon. That's why that's extreme personalism. We tend to be uncomfortable with the bureaucracy, with rules and regulation, and with the standards procedures, all of which tend to be impersonal. We tend to ignore them, or we ask for exemption. Kasi nga, hindi ako kasali dyan kasi ganito. Total, ganito man. Okay? Sobra-sobra. Ito, uncle ko. Extreme, personal. Personal contacts are involved in many transactions. These are difficult to turn down. Preference is usually given to the family, friends in hiring, deliver services, or even in voting. May problema tayo dyan. Ito na lang ibuto natin kasi kilala natin ito. Sobra-sobra kahit na mali. Kahit na mandurugas, kahit na corrupt, kahit na drug lord. Ito pa rin. Okay? Then extreme personalism thus leads to a graft and corruption evident in the Philippine society. Yun. Si Duterte, our president, sige bintang palaging inaakusa the previous administration of corruption. China, pansin nyo, but in fairness naman kay Pinoy, I'm not for yellow, at least nanalo tayo sa International Tribunal na atin yung China Sea. Pero ngayon, hinayaan, mayroon ng base militar ang Chinese. So, kaya nga, extreme personalism, may contact kasi sa presidente, pwede sa mangutang, face to face. Pero sobra-sobra na, ayan, kakasira din. That's a weakness. That's a weakness of being a Filipino. Kaya nga, leads to graft and corruption even in the Philippine society. Custom, ilipat lang yon mga leader. PhilHealth, yung general line, nasaan na? Billions ang nawala. malaking utang sa Red Cross. Tumahimik na. Corruption leads to corruption. Kaya kontak ko kasi sinaligan ako na siya. General yan, kilala ko yan. Pero what happened? Extreme personalism leads to graft and corruption. Galit ako sa mga corrupt. Pero anong nangyari sa PhilHealth ngayon? Anong nangyari sa Bureau of Custom? Anong nangyari sa other agencies? Okay, hindi nawawala. Okay, tinatakpan. Okay, tinatakpan. Di ba, nawala na lang yung issue sa PhilHealth? Natabunan naman ngayon sa issue ng pagpatay ni stewardess. Tinatabon-tabunan, nakalimutan yung previous issue about the corruption. Kasi yun yung resulta of extreme personalism. Okay? Next, extreme family-centeredness. Alam natin yun. And we can set a lot of examples. Okay? So, like the example, ito yung pamilya namin, grabe yan, puro kami atong puro extreme. Dapat ampatuan kami kasi mga hari kami. Nung nabuwag mga ampatuan, yung iba, ayaw na, tinalsik na. Pinabago mga apelyido. Kahit na hindi pariente namin yan. Ka-apelyido namin yan. Kasi sobra-sobra, sikat. Ngayon, ano nangyari? Okay? Nung nabuwag, ayaw na, natatakot na. So that's a negative thing. That's a weakness of being Filipino. Okay, that's a weakness. Okay, sobra-sobra ring pananaw sa pamilya. Pero nandito din yan, kahit nasa pangmaliitan lang. Napansin nyo, mga nanay niyo, mga tatay ninyo, pamilya namin, kapamilya namin yan. Una-una, paambog yan sa mga anak. Ang mga anak ko may abogado, may engineer, may nurse, may midwife, lahat na. May professor, lahat-lahat na. Ayun, parente namin, grabe, close kami. Sobra-sobra ba? Sobra pahambog. So, that's a weakness of being a Filipino character. Excessive concern for the family creates in-group to which a Filipino is firstly loyal or detriment of the concern for the largest community or for the common good. O yan. Kaya nga, weakness siya. Ang problema, atin lang ito. Sa politika, atin to lahat. Wala na dapat alis dito. Pamilya lang natin ito. Okay? In terms of the family, factionalism, Peter's political dynasty. Okay? Kaya nga minsan masakit man kasi tayo mga Pinoy, hindi na tayo nag-iisip. Halimbawa, mga national leaders natin. Ngayon, tingnan nyo, dynasty. Kung sino na ko po, halos lahat, paryente, mga anak, pamangkin. Dito lang sa atin. Tingnan nyo sa atin. With this dynasty. May mga country yan. The Sinswat country, the Mastura country, Mangunda Dato country, and the other countries there. That's dynasty. Whether we like it or not, alam natin yon. Halimbawa, kung Mangunda Dato country, kung titira ako doon sa ang asawa ko taga Takurong man o taga Quirino man, President Quirino, wala ba akong karapatan mag-grant? Pero hindi ako mananalo. Paryente ng asawa ko sa Quirino. Pinatay. Nag-grant ng mayor, nag-grant ng board, pinatay. Ano ay? Because of this political dynasty na dapat walang ibang tao na makihalo dito sa atin because this is our country. Kita nyo, the extreme family-centeredness. That's everywhere in the Philippines. Ang sinight ko sa mo dito lang sa atin kasi kitang-kita. In Cebu, when I was in Cebu, when I talk out about itong Danau City, pare-pareho lang dito sa ating lugar. During the election, pag hindi ka Durano kasi from mayor to the councilor, lahat-lahat to the purok, mga president, mga kagawad, paryente talaga na Durano. Pag may Alferez doon mo na makisawsaw ka, mawala ka, patayin ka. Sabi ko kahit saan yan, extreme family-centeredness. And that's one of our weakness being Filipino. Take note on that. Okay? This is a result of the controversy. Okay, centeredness results to the lack of concern for the common good and acts as a block of the national consciousness, and which is very, very true. Ha? Totoo talaga yan. Lack of common good and acts as a block to national consciousness. Totoo yan. Kaya nga, bakit wala yun? Ayaw ng mga congressman itong buwagin ng political dynasty kasi ayaw nilang matanggal sa kanilang pwesto, lugar nila. Kasi tingnan nyo, all the politicians pabalik-balik sila pa rin. Da Binay, Da Cayetano, kaya sila pa rin. Para bang ang iba, wala nang pagkakatao na mag-lead, na mamuno. And why? Anyway, that's a negative thing. That's our weakness. Pero sinong problema? Sinong naglagay din sa kanila? Tayo din. Hindi din tayo nag-isip. Okay? Hindi din tayo nag-isip. Okay? May mga qualified dyan with all the records. Talunin lang ng elementary. And why? Kasi may pangalan na. May pangalan na. So, kasalanan din natin. That's our weakness. Next, lack of discipline. And we know that one. We know that very well. As Filipino, that's our weakness. We lack discipline. Dito nga lang sa Cotabato, mga driver, alam na bawal no parking, mag-parking. Maraming nahuli. Alam na do not stop, huwag kang mag-stop. May pedestrian, kahit na yung halimbawa, yung pedestrian, wala mang disiplina ng mga drivers. Yung sa amin, yung sa Polytechnic, naglalakad estudyante ng pedestrian, binunggo. So that's a problem. Walang disiplina. Okay? Hindi lang doon sa traffic. And everything. Whether we like it or not, we lack discipline. That's why Filipinos' lack of discipline manifests in a casual and relaxed attitude towards time and space, which manifests itself in a lack of precision and compulsive in a poor time management and procrastination. So, yun ang problema. It is also an aversion of the following strictly a set of procedures, and this results in a lack of standardization and quality control. So, yun talaga ang problema. Okay? Then, our lack of discipline often results in inefficient and wasteful work system, violations of rules, leading to a more serious transgressions, and a casual work ethic leading to a carelessness and a lack of follow-through. Tingnan ninyo yan in that drawing. Bawal ang umihi dito. Pero anong ginagawa? Doon umihi. Walang disiplina. Kuha natin. Bawal magbaba ng pasahero dito. Doon ibinababa yung pasahero. Sa Cotabato, buti lang itabi, hindi man sa gitna man ibaba. Ang mga pasahero wala ding disiplina, bababa din sa gitna. So that's the thing. That's our weakness. Okay? Next. Passivity and lack of initiative. That's another weakness. In everything, we are very, very passive. Kung may mag-active man, may mga activists, magsabi ka agad, taga-UP, mga scholar kayo ng bayan, wala kayong utang na loob, pinaaral kayo ng gobyerno. Pero sino man mag-check and balance kung marang magwelga? Okay? Kita natin, very passive ang Pinoy. That's the point there. Then we lack initiative. O kahit na kayo, kita mo may basurahan, naglalakad ka sa school, hindi man, dapat your initiative would tell you na pulutin mo, itapon mo sa basurahan. Pero hinayaan lang, minsan apak-apakan lang. Minsan sipa-sipain pa yung yung mineral bottle. Sabi ko, nakakalungkot. But that's our weakness. So that's a challenge to all of us. Hamon yan. Na dapat baguhin itong weakness na ito. Okay? Kaya nga problema tayo dito. Then Filipinos generally passive and lacking initiative. This is a strong reliance on others. Ayan, strong reliance on others, to the leaders, especially in our government, to do things for us related to our need for a strong authority. Kaya leader man yan dahil may leader tayo. Tapos ang leader natin, wala din. Zero balance din. So magka-problema tayo if we only rely on that leader. Kasi passive man tayo. Okay? Filipinos tend to be complacent and there are rarely a sense of urgency about any problem. There is a high tolerance of inefficiency, poor service, and even violations of one's basic rights. In many ways, it can be said that Filipino is too patient and long-suffering. Matiisin daw. But this matiisin, problema nga, wala talaga. We lack discipline, we lack initiative. That's one of our weakness or weaknesses as Filipinos. Then, too easily resigned to one's fate. Filipinos are thus easily oppressed and exploited. Ayan, kay passive man tayo. So, ang bilis lang, ma-oppress tayo, ma-exploit tayo. Kasi we always depend, rely on our leaders. Ang leaders din na sabi ko na wala pulos, wala loss po, nagiging oppressed tayo, exploited tayo. Kasi takot ba din tayo magsalita? Kasi passive nga tayo. Okay? Kaya nga, kaming mga teachers, sabi ko nga, by nature, sabi ko, I am one of them. Kung may magwelga yan, yung mga teachers, when I was in the university, I'm one of the leader, especially in our, we have the so-called union, faculty and staff union. If it is for the welfare of the community, dapat magsalita ka. Not to be passive. Okay? O kayo, dito sa atin, sa school. Grabe, hindi kami nakatake ng exam ganito. Hindi man naintindihan nila sister, hindi man naintindihan ni ma'am. Kaya nga nag-PM sa akin, naintindihan ko kayo. But we have the rules. Kaya we have the rules and regulation na no exam, no permit, no exam. So, wala nang kiyaw-kiyaw. So, in order to be active, kung kailangan mangutang ka. Kasi nag-aral ka man dito. The fact na, dito ka nag-aral. Pag passive ka lang, hintay ka ng wala, that's a problem. Tapos yaw-yaw ka lang. Okay? Ito, the next weakness is the colonial mentality. Alam natin yan. What is important is good. What is important pala? What is important is good. Ayaw natin yung Pinoy product. Na dapat hindi ganon. Kaya nakakaya din minsan. Halimbawa, made in Marikina na shoes natin, tinatawanan. Ang gusto natin, made in China. Kasi mura at saka imported pa. Made in America. Kahit na ukay-ukay. Kita ninyo yan? That's our weakness. Kasi imported. Kahit na tira-tira na, tinapon na sa ibang bansa, basta imported yun. Ang made in the Philippines, ayaw natin. Kasi bakya. Kasi hindi durable. But it's not true. Our products, especially the Marikina shoes, ini-import yan. Tapos tayo, gawin nating, kaya that's our weakness as Filipino. Kaya nga sinasabi, Filipinos have a colonial mentality which is made up of two dimensions. The first is a lack of patriotism or an active awareness, appreciation, and the love of the Philippines. The second is the actual preference for things foreign. Yan, yun yung dalawa. Una, yung lack of patriotism, hindi mo mahal ang bansa mo. Hindi mo ina-appreciate. Then, Pangalawa, yung the actual preference of the things. What is foreign, yun yung isinusuot mo kasi imported. Okay? Tapos magpahambog ka pa. Okay, ito, ang ganda-ganda pa. Okay? Pag Pinoy yan, Pinoy made, problema. Then Filipino culture is characterized by an openness to the outside, adapting and incorporating the foreign elements into our image of ourselves, not to build around the deep core of the Philippine history and language. Sayang. Okay? The result of cultural vagueness or weakness that makes Filipino extraordinary susceptible to the wholesale acceptance of modern mass culture, which is often Western, that there is preference for foreign fashion, entertainment, lifestyle, technology, etc. Take note, tamaan tayo lahat dito. Preference for foreign fashion, entertainment. Kaya nga yung ibang mga Pinoy, ayaw manood ng pelikulang Pinoy. Doon, what is sa Hollywood. Kasi imported magaling. Ano ka? Pinoy ka? Or ibang lahi ka? Or hambugiro ka lang? Kaya that's our weakness. Yung colonial mentality. Kaya yung iba, nakita ko ito, magpahambog na yan. Kung mag-share ng mga Pinoy stories, Pinoy film, wala. Okay? The lifestyle, the technology, okay? The customer items, and the rest. Then Filipino mentality is manifested in the alienation of the elite from their roots and from the masses, as well as the basic feeling of the national inferiority that makes it difficult for Filipinos to relate as equals to Westerners. Ayon. Makes it difficult for Filipinos to relate as equals to Westerners. So, yun yung problema natin. Next, weakness. The kanya-kanya syndrome. Alam naman natin ito. Another weakness. Kung sa Bohol ito, idja-idja, aho-aho. Injo. Kung anong sa inyo, sa inyo. Kung anong sa amin, sa amin. Yun yung kanya-kanya syndrome. Na nangyayari din yan sa atin sa Cotabato. Magindanawon man kami, magaling kami. Magsabi naman, kami yun, mga bright kami, ganun, negosyante kami. Sabi naman tausog, kami yung mga magagaling, kami yung mga brave, kami yung mga fighter. Salamat kayo sa amin. Pagdating sa amin, mga Bisaya, wala yan, zero balance yan. Kita niyo, kanya-kanya. Kanya-kanya syndrome. And as a result, yung regionalistic attitude, and as a result of that, yun yung weakness natin. So, and I hope this worm, itong kanya-kanya syndrome, sana naman. Pero, it is also manifested, makikita natin. Bakit? Sabi doon sa tagahulo, para lang yun sa Maguindanao, yung barm. Hindi kami kasali, dapat mag-create din kami sa amin. Kanya-kanya, regionalistic attitude. Kita natin? So that's the point there. Filipinos have a selfish and self-serving attitude that generates a feeling of envy and competitiveness toward others, particularly one's peers who seem to have gained some status or prestige. And we call this one also the Talangka Republic. Pag nasa taas, sinihila. Pero I have read books about this Talangka, about this. Sabi nga, sa experiment daw, hindi naman daw naghilaan yan sila. Kung hindi, kung sino yung gustong kwan, itinutulak. But kabaliktaran sa atin, na Talangka Republic yan. Kung sino yung nasa taas, nainggit ka man, nasama, dapat lahat kami nasa taas. So at the end of the day, magka-problema. Kaya nga, that's our weakness. Because of this Talangka Republic. The kanya-kanya syndrome is also evident in the personal ambition and the drive for power and status that is completely insensitive to the common good. personal and in-group interests reign supreme. Ayan. Because of this kanya-kanya. This characteristic is also evident in the lack of sense of service among the people in the government bureaucracy. Kita ninyo? Because of this kanya-kanya, sinong develop ngayon masyado? Maynila, Cebu, ang Mindanao. Sabi, Mindanao, ang ating taga-ato ni si Presidente. Ang na-improve lang because kanya-kanya ang Davao. Hinihintay natin yung train sana from Davao to Cotabato. Pero parang hanggang panaginip man lang. Okay, because of this kanya-kanya. Sabi ko nga, the sense of service among people in the government bureaucracy nawawala na. Then the public is made to feel that service from these offices and from these civil servants is an extra perk that is to be paid for. Ayan, yun yung resulta sa kanya-kanya. Sana bago pababa ang presidente, may something na nangyari sa Mindanao. Pero as of now, mga kalsada, hinay-hinay naman sa Davao, sa Jansan, punta ka sa Jansan, ang ganda ng mga kalsada, ang lalawak. Pero sa atin, sa Cotabato, ang kikipot ng mga kalsada. And bakit? Maybe because of kanya-kanya din sa mga leaders natin. And because tayo din mga tao. Ang kalsada gawing bakuran. Amin ito. Amin ang Mindanao. That's the problem. Kanya-kanya. Okay? Una in Cotabato na ang kalsada bakuran. Okay? That's the point there. Kaya minsan tayo, magta-travel tayo, mag-compare man talaga natin. Papunta ka ng Takurong. Daan ka dito, Taviran, hanggang Talayan, ganyan-ganyan. Pagdating mo doon sa bandang Esperanza, Christian Country, wow! Ang ganda ng mga daanan. Hindi ginawa ng bakura ng mga tao. Dito naman sa atin, from Cotabato, going to Davao, punta ka sa Papikit, pagdating mo sa Kabakan, wow! Kita ninyo? So there is something wrong with leadership because of this kanya-kanya. Okay? So alam natin yon. Kaya nga buksan ang isipan. You look at the realities. Kaya nga sabi ko nga, it's good to remind once again with this subject, itong values na ito, especially the Filipino value system. The weakness, another one, the lack of self-analysis and lack of self-reflection. This is the last one of our weakness. There is a tendency of the Filipino to be superficial and somewhat flighty in the face of serious problems, both personal and social. There is a lack of analysis and reflection. Kaya nga sinasabi, huwag magpadalos-dalos. Mag-isip muna, magnilay muna. Pero yung iba, ayaw mag-isip. Padalos-dalos, ang resulta, magka-problema. That's why this is one of the weakness. Then we joke about the most serious matters, and this prevents looking deeply into the problem. There is no felt need to validate our hypothesis or explanation of things. Thus, we are satisfied with the superficial explanations and the superficial solutions to problems. And why? Because of this weakness natin. Okay? Lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. We tend to emphasize on form, yung mapurma tayo, rather than on substance. We be satisfied with rhetoric to substitute for reality. Rhetoric and endless words are very much part of the public discourse. Ang galing magsalita. Okay? Ang galing-galing. But in action, zero balance. Okay? As long as the right things are said, As long as the proper documents and report exist, as long as the proper committees, task force, or offices are firm, Filipinos are deluded into believing that what ought to be actually exists. Nandiyan naman, everything is there, ganyan-ganyan. Hindi na natin nag-reflect, hindi na tayo na-analyze. Ayan, sunod-sunuran na lang tayo. Then Filipinos lack self-analysis. And our emphasis on norms is reinforced by the educational system that is often more form than the substance, and a legal system that tends to substitute law for reality. Ayan. Nasa ating education system din nagka-problema din tayo. Like now, pandemic. Anong nangyari? Especially in the public schools. Modular. May mga sagot ang module. May natutunan ba? Kahit na may television yan. Dakdak ng dakdak yan. Sino yan sa television, sa radyo? Matuto kayang mga bata. Na taga-bundok. Yan ang problema. There's something wrong with our educational system. Lack of self-analysis, lack of self-reflection. That's one of our weaknesses as Filipino. So with that, with this review, with this Filipino value system, I hope you learned something. Tapos na tayo with this introductory part. Then for your assignment, okay, siguro alam naman ninyo kung anong gagawin. You have to submit, of course, gusto ko a reaction paper. A reaction paper. Then focus more on the strength as well as our weaknesses as Filipinos. You react more, gusto ninyo more on our weaknesses or to our strength, okay lang. So, requirement, at least 2 pages. 2 pages. Kailan isa-submit? Kaya bukas? Or sa susunod na meeting? Pero may klase na yata bukas. 16, 17. O sige, I'll give you time. Okay. You do it tomorrow. Of course, mahaba-haba man yan. So, once again, our type of learning, and I don't know any feedback, baka may feedback kayo in this course, okay lang ba sa inyo na ganito? Giving you a recorded lecture. Kasi mag-Zoom tayo, may problema sa net. Buti kung okay lang net natin. Wala sanang problema. Pero ito I find it on your end ba, para sa inyo. Kung face-to-face lang sana, wala namang problema. So, mas maganda kasi may interaction. Okay? May interaction. Kung mag-Zoom naman tayo, may problema din because of the net. Whether we like it or not. Hindi nakakaintindihan. Sinubukan ko ito sa aming school. Hindi tayo nakakaintindihan. Minsan, mawala ang isa, mawala ang teacher. Wala na. Maghintay ka naman ilang minuto. Yung iba nga oras. But here comes this recorded lecture para na lang face-to-face. Ako as your teacher, kayo. So, it's your responsibility. Open to the YouTube. Nandiyan na. Okay? So, kung may feedback man, kung okay ba ito sa inyo, or mas okay yung naka-Zoom kayo, pero personally, ayaw ko yun. Ayaw ko personally. Okay? So, every time, every meeting, if not every meeting, may quiz tayo. Ito yung gagawin natin. Okay? Kagaya sa ginawa nyo, just send through my, para madali ha, you can write it, handwritten, or encoded. Wala namang problema. Kung sa messenger, picture lang ninyo. Send sa akin. Kung sa email man, doon lang sa email. Send din. So, para masundan natin, check ko man yun din kaagad, recorded man yan. Okay? So, I hope you learned something, but once again, You submit a 2 pages reaction ha, not a reflection. Iba ang reaction. Reaction on the issues, on the topic that we discuss. Iba na yung self-analysis, na yung self-reflection. Okay? Iba yung reflection na, now, I'm trying to tell you this. You have to submit a reaction paper about this discussion. So is that clear? So once again, I hope you learned something. Then, God bless you all. And thank you for listening this recorded lecture. So, dalay gon ang Diyos. Bye-bye.